Hi everyone, it's Gabrielle Temaat with the College Fix. You may wonder why there are so many more liberal professors on campus than there are conservative ones. Well, the Association of American University Professors claims that the pursuit of knowledge, wherever it may lead, does not appear to be a goal of the modern conservative movement, end quote. So, is the lack of conservative professors on campus a result of closed-mindedness? We spoke to an expert in this area. He's a champion for viewpoint diversity and free speech on campus. He's also a former professor, and he's a leader at the American Council of Trustees and Alumni. Here it is. Hi, Dr. McGuire. Thank you so much for joining us. As we know, there's a lack of conservative professors on campus. Liberal professors outnumber conservatives greatly. I did a study at Arizona State University and found that Democrat professors outnumber conservatives by 15 to 1. The AAUP claims that essentially the pursuit of knowledge clashes with conservatism. What is your response to this?
Yeah, I mean, I was stunned to see that posted by the AAUP. I'm not sure who's running that account, but it is their official institutional account. So it's pretty stunning to see an organization that purports to represent all faculty, tweeting something like that out. And I think it does highlight one of the obstacles that conservative faculty members or would-be faculty members face, which is that there's a lot of people in academia who just believe that conservatives don't belong, or that they don't have the intellectual abilities to participate in academia. But it makes you wonder about claims of discrimination against conservatives in the hiring process, in graduate application processes, all those sorts of things. And some people say, look, there's maybe some self-selection going on, that conservative-minded people might have other interests, but there's definitely discrimination taking place as well. I've seen it myself in my former work as a professor, and there's been studies to show this as well, that people say that they're, for instance, they'd be unwilling to hire a known Trump supporter or something like that. So when people are, running a national union for faculty and, showing that in their view, there are reasons why conservatives wouldn't participate in academia, that's definitely troubling.
For sure. For anyone who doesn't know, what kind of influence does the AAUP have? Why is it significant, do you think, that they're saying this?
Yeah, well, they're now one of many organizations that fights for academic freedom on campuses in the United States, but they're sort of the original one, right? They are the ones who have the 1915 Declaration on Academic Freedom, and they've been sort of recognized as the long-standing faculty group advocating for academic freedom. And, as well, they're also a union now. So on a lot of campuses, they actually are built into negotiating processes and that sort of thing, in addition to the fact that their principles of academic freedom are often built into faculty handbooks, and thereby faculty contracts and that sort of thing. So, they're a significant organization that traditionally has an important role to play in higher education, specifically for faculty.
Something else that they said in their statement that I wanted to point out was they clarified that conservatives are not fascists, but they also said that fascism generally doesn't do great under peer review. What do you think about that statement?
They're saying this in a context in which a lot of people in the United States are throwing the F word around, and they're using it to talk about Republicans. So, they're sort of playing into that. And the current president of the AAUP, one of the first things I remember seeing from him when he first, became president of the organization is he said that J.D. Vance is a fascist, just as one example. So there is some history there with the AAUP and the use of this word. Somebody pointed out on X in that sort of scrum around that tweet, that there have in fact been some fascist scholars who have survived in universities. Someone like Martin Heidegger comes to mind, but I don't know that that's really the key response to the AAUP here. Like I said, we're not interested in defending fascism. It's just another example, I think, of how they disrespect conservatism more generally. And yes, they did make that clarification, and it's good that they did. But it's also sad that it was one that they had to make. And again, this is their institutional account. It's not somebody's personal musings on their private account or something like that. Like I said, I was a professor before. I mean, I've known about the AAUP for a long time. I've always known that they sort of lean to the left, but in the last few years, they really seem to have pushed much harder in that direction, and it's noticeable, not just in their tweets, but in several of the reports and policy documents that they've been putting out, as well as their other public statements.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience as a professor? Did you experience a lot of bias on campus for your views?
Definitely some. I never had serious problems. I had friends who did. When I interviewed for one of my first jobs that I ever got, kind of a funny story, like in the formal interview process, I was asked what I thought of Glenn Beck, and which is a really odd question to ask somebody. And I think, again, sort of highlights these bizarre caricatures that academics have of conservative academics, that would, not that I have any problem with Glenn Beck. It's just that's a really weird question to ask someone, but it was clear that they were trying to suss out, like, how conservative was I, what kind of a conservative was I, and that sort of thing. So there was clearly a political litmus test during that process, and certainly had other issues, trying to get courses approved in some cases, or having people come by my office during later hiring processes where I was on the committee side, trying to impart to me that it was very important that I would hire somebody based on their their identity, right, their sex or their race and that sort of thing. And then I've certainly seen others get in more hot water, as they tried to resist certain developments, at the university. At another place where I worked, they added some sort of DEI questions to course evaluations for professors. And, it was clear that these were a kind of opportunity that students could use to politically evaluate or even arguably retaliate against professors. And, there were certainly concerns about that we expressed. DEI stuff as well led to some conflict, and overall, like, I never got canceled or anything, and it's fine to have disagreement, obviously, among the faculty. But I think especially after 2016, it became noticeable that it was much harder to be a conservative on campus, regardless of whether you voted for Donald Trump or not.
And how much of the issue do you think is self-selection? Is it possible that a lot of conservative academics are saying it's just not worth it? It's the progressivism has taken over campus. It's not worth getting canceled or fired, or not being able to express my views. How much of it do you think comes down to that?
Yeah, it's hard to quantify, and I'm not someone who sort of tries to run like social science, studies to figure this out. I mostly read the work of others on these things, and but I will say, your question kind of points to one of the problems with the self-selection explanation too, insofar as if the self-selection is based on discrimination or perceived discrimination against conservatives, then there's a kind of reinforcing cycle there, where the stories of discrimination then have this further effect of leading to self-selection. But it might be true that conservatives, if you're just talking in terms of statistical generalities, that sort of thing, that maybe there's certain traits that people who lean conservative have that might lead them in other directions. People will say, like, they're more likely to go into business or something. Maybe they're more interested in doing other things compared to, say, people who go into the arts or the humanities or something like that. But I know lots of conservative academics. They're highly intelligent. They do great work. They produce great students. So for the AAUP to suggest and we have to keep in mind, like, the great disparities, right, between, like you were saying, the percentage of Republicans or conservatives on American campuses versus how many Democrats there are. I mean, maybe it's the case that at the end of the day, it's 60-40 or 70-30 or something. I mean, it still would not validate the claim that the AAUP was making in that post.
How much do you think the lack of conservative representation on campus impacts the quality of education?
I mean, I think it affects higher ed in a number of ways. First of all, in terms of the student experience, right? If students are not being exposed to a variety of views by taking classes with different professors, if they're not seeing people representing different views on campus, then that hurts the educational experience because they're not getting the full picture. They're not hearing, views that are commonly held by others in the country, like even if they're not on campus. I think in terms of even, say the pursuit of philosophy or something, right? This starts usually from examining various opinions or arguments or perspectives and sort of working your way up from there. And so if you're not starting from a more robust examination of the various starting points, then that hurts the inquiry as well. And then, of course, there's studies that show that things like groupthink hurt scientific inquiry. So I think it's a big problem, and it also hurts the universities in terms of their ability to govern themselves and to manage their relationship to the rest of political society. And I think we've seen that a lot recently, and we continue to see that where because they live in a bit of a bubble, they don't even fully understand the people that they're dealing with, or the people who they're living in this country with, and that hurts their ability to go about their own business, but also serve the interests of the country more generally.
Thank you all for watching. I'm Gabrielle Temaat with the College Fix. If you think you know why conservatives are so underrepresented on college campuses, comment down below and let us know. Stay tuned for more.